In May, the Financial Times was the first to report that Apple was interested in acquiring Beats Music. With me to discuss what's happened since the acquisition was finalized, Matt Garrahan, Global Media Editor.
Hi.
Matt, so a few months later after this deal has been announced, which you had broken in May, we have a little better sense of what the partnership is going to look like between these two companies.
Yep.
What did we learn this week?
So this week we reported that Apple is going to include Beats in an upgrade of iOS, which is its operating system, in early next year, possibly in March. And this will effectively put the Beats music streaming service onto hundreds of millions of Apple
So I have an
devices.
iPhone.
Yeah.
I get this update from iOS,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden Beats is on my phone.
Yeah, you'll have an icon there that'll take you straight through to it. You won't. There may be a free trial element, but it's going to be a paid service, so you're going to have to pay. You may be able to do it with a one-touch fingerprint recognition technology, which the new iPhones have. But it's a way of getting this service and getting streaming music in front of a very, very, very large audience.
Right, and so when the deal was first reported, we all thought Beats, headphone company, Apple's a hardware company, why are they buying this headphone company? But now we're talking about streaming music. So what is Beats Music, separate from the headphone?
It's a streaming music service. You pay a monthly subscription. Unclear how much that's going to be under Apple.
Yeah.
And it's an all-you-can-eat service. You pay, the biggest comparison is Spotify, which has a similar service. You'll pay a monthly fee and you'll be able to listen to all the music you want.
And what's interesting about this is Apple has a music service called iTunes, which is different. It's a download business. So how does Beats interact with iTunes? What are the strengths and weaknesses of this synergy?
Well, iTunes is a massive service. I mean, I think there are 200 million active iTunes accounts out there. I think upwards of 500 million people have the potential to use iTunes.
Yeah.
But iTunes is a download service. You pay your money, you download an album, you download a song. Streaming music is very, very different, but it seems to be where music consumption is heading. Download sales are falling, and streaming is really where it's at now. And
so if I'm a consumer, I like iTunes, but I'm thinking about going to Spotify. Now I have the chance to stay with Apple, within the Apple ecosystem, and through this Beats system. Then.
Yep. Yeah, Spotify has been in the news this week and the last couple of weeks because big high-profile disagreement with Taylor Swift. Right? Taylor Swift has pulled her entire catalog from Spotify's service. Spotify has a free service, which is a sort of a gateway into its paid-for subscription service. The new Apple service, as far as we understand, will not have a free service. So it's going to differentiate itself like that. There'll be a value ascribed to music. Yeah. And it has this vast, vast audience, which by being on every device, it'll be able to reach.
And so what does this tell us about where these music wars are going between artists, streaming services, publishers, labels? What is the Apple Beats arrangement?
Well, I think it puts more pressure on Spotify. I think it's going to put there's going to be pressure on the music labels now. The big record labels now have a way of putting leverage on Spotify to get them to kill their free tier. I mean, Taylor Swift was the start, a big new streaming service with a very, very large audience, which doesn't have a free tier as another way, which is potentially very good news for labels. And Apple has a way of getting to these customers. It's getting them to engage with music in a way that over the last decade they really haven't.
Okay, and so 3 months or 4 months after you first reported this blockbuster deal, does it make more sense to you from Apple's perspective? Was this smart? Is this the way to get into music? How do you feel about that a few months later?
From what we hear, at the time, people said, "Oh, they want the back-end system, they want the streaming service." What we're hearing is Apple is dismantling much of the Beats streaming technology and building pretty much a brand new service. So the deal, as far as we can tell, was about brand for the headphone brand and about talent. I mean, Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre. The big hip hop star, founding partners in Beats Music, and artist relationships. They have cachet and very strong relationships in the music industry, which, as we're seeing with Spotify and Taylor Swift, are all important.
So they may have some success with Taylor Swift that Spotify is not.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you very much.